Listen, it's been an honor and a pleasure to be here at the MoMA, man. It's to salute my good friend, my brother, Upscale Vandal, man. It's nothing but culture in the building.
Welcome to Items Music Video Night with Mass Appeal and Upscale Vandal.
Yo, thanks everybody for coming out. I appreciate, you guys all coming through. What we're gonna do is kind of explore, Mike's story and some of the specific fashion items through a series of music videos. The first one that we're kicking off with is the Diplomats' Dipset anthem from 2003.
Because Dipset and that era of hip hop that New Yorkers have specifically experienced and went through kind of shaped an entire subgenre, subculture of kids that really kind of express themselves through fashion because of their taste in music.
Come on. Yeah. With your boy. Yeah.
I chose this particular song was because there was so much going on in this video, and Dipset was known for starting so many trends that you'll see in this. And when we were walking the exhibit, when I walked the exhibit the first time, I was like, man, everything in this exhibit is in this video in one way, shape, or form. You'll see Cameron really debuted that pink, right? And then everybody was wearing pink. And he ended up taking that so far that he has his own Pantone. It's called Killer Pink. So he's the first artist to be able to, for people who actually study art and design, for you to have a Pantone color that you own and companies have to pay him to use that specific shade of pink coming from just him wearing a color. That can show any kid how deep it goes for you to have an expressive sense of style.
The baseball cap also, was a really, massive fashion item. It actually was a filmmaker, Spike Lee, who helped to actually kind of diversify the colors for certain teams.
Upstairs we have a red Yankees hat, and the reason why we have red is because when the Yankees were playing the Braves in the '94 World Series, Spike Lee called up New Era. He said, I'm wearing a red coat when I go to Atlanta to watch the game, and I'm wondering, can you make me a red hat to match? And this blew their mind. They were like, what, a hat that's not the team colors? It's so strange. They had to call up George Steinbrenner and get his permission. And he said, sure, whatever Spike Lee wants, Spike Lee gets. And so he wore the red cap, and he was photographed wearing the red cap. And the next day, apparently, tons of young people, bum rushed the New Era stores. They wanted one of these red caps. And so New Era realized that they had kind of, a new idea that they can start making caps in colors that did not necessarily reflect the team's colors, and that really was the birth of kind of customized caps and fashion caps that weren't just about team affiliation.
And one other, key item is the jersey. You can credit hip hop for popularizing, the jersey as a fashion item.
Me and Pusha started wearing soccer jerseys as a fashion staple, I would say 2012. And we were wearing soccer jerseys because, essentially a soccer jersey looks like a designer shirt, right? There's a lot of cut lines, there's a lot of different material plays, screen prints, colors. But we started noticing that when we were wearing these soccer jerseys, people started copying us. So as a way to kind of, change from the norm, we started putting cartel and crime family names that pertain to the country on the back of them. So we started doing that, and then maybe a month later, Pusha ends up on the front page of an Italian newspaper, and they're rapper comes to, he's performing in Italy, and he was wearing a famous mob family, and they were rapper comes and disgraces the country. And it was what? So again, the translation of the representation of what a jersey means and how it could go, something so small. And in this era, jerseys were everything.
I kind of want to get more to Mike, your story, how you kind of got into the game with, fashion and bringing that passion that you always kind of had.
The first thing I was ever able to do in the industry was April Rumette, who's a celebrity stylist, gave me an internship. And I didn't really know anything about the fashion industry, the business, but styling kind of, I guess, to me came naturally. It was all right, well, if I have a good sense of personal style, I'm sure I can help somebody else kind of develop their personal style. First of all, that's not what styling is at all, right? And I learned that the hard way because April used to say, for us to stay in business, you have to make sure that they need you. Your artist and your client has to need you to develop a story. So here I am, like my first 2 clients with her that she taught me, the ropes with, was Santigold, who's a female and makes alternative music, and I had absolutely no idea. And then Big Sean, who was a lot easier, but, I'm giving them all the sauce. Like, Sean would be texting me, and I'd be like, yeah, wear this, and I'm not charging him, right? So April calls me and is like, have you been shopping for Santigold and Sean? And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, are they paying us? And I'm like, nah. So that didn't last long. Yeah.
What's really interesting is that the video hones in on all of her jewelry, right? Not something new in videos. We're used to that. But then young boys have these kind of sticks coming off of their fingernails, almost like a manicure, right? And what's really interesting is that upstairs we have a recreation of Lil' Kim's Money Manicure, which was Bernadette Thompson was a really well-known manicurist here in New York City, and she took pieces of, U.S. paper currency and lacquered it into a manicure for Lil' Kim to wear, and it was sort of like the ultimate expression of having your nails done, meaning that, you live a leisurely life.
From there, you kind of build a relationship with Pharrell and working with Billionaire Boys Club.
I really like sales. I was always really good with being able to talk with talking and conveying a message. And that's really what sales is, right? It's me kind of convincing you of what I see in a product. The only thing I ever cared about was Rockefeller and Pharrell. And in one meeting, I worked for both of them.
The video that we chose, to reflect that was the Mr. Me Too.
Bro, this video, and I can speak for at least 40% of the crowd, changed my life. Because what the guy in the front row right here was saying on this record.
Been 2 years like I was paddy wagon cruising. Streets was yours, your dunce capping and kazooing. I was just assuming you keep the coke moving, but I got one question. Y'all been doing?
This is not a video, this is history.
This kind of really birthed the streetwear era, right? I'm sure many of you in this audience have waited online outside a store to get something from a limited drop. I see a lot of young people doing that, and I think it really kind of, emerged around this time period. And one of the items we have upstairs, we call it the graphic tee. It's cotton, it's probably Hanes, American Apparel, whatever. But whatever this graphic is suddenly gives it either immense value or, shows you're a fan of something or, I don't know, makes you dorky or whatever. And I think that's really indicated in this video with all of the different printed garments, right? And, especially Pharrell with all of his chains and stuff, he's branding himself with these motifs that we all today do with a graphic tee.
This era bred an entire culture of influencers because the t-shirt is the opening scene for somebody to create their own collection, right? It's like the blank canvas where I've seen kids become millionaires off of t-shirts. And what the Clips, what Pharrell, what Nigo, and what that era did for kids was they put it on a pedestal where you said, okay, I can't be high fashion because I can't wear, a cashmere sweater or I can't wear whatever. They said, no, t-shirts are luxury, printable hoodies are luxury. And they paired it like when you see a guy with $200,000 in cash, a Lamborghini, all the jewels in the world, and a t-shirt, you automatically put this thing on a pedestal that can make every kid with $60 or whatever a t-shirt costs relatable, you know what I mean? And the streetwear era, birthed, everything, all of us, everything I've ever done comes from this. I remember buying Bape and coming home and my mom was like, yeah, you buying a lot of this? And I was like, yeah, this shirt is $120. And she'd look at me like I was retarded, right? But
a t-shirt used to be underwear. You guys all know that, right? So just keep that in mind.
So at the end of the day, without me having the wealth of knowledge, everything I didn't go to, just so you guys know, I don't know if you guys know, but I didn't go to college for fashion. I didn't go to high school for fashion. Everything I've learned has been trial and error. Everything I've learned has been by being a consumer, just like most of the kids who are doing it now. So, this was my school. This was my fashion 101.
Okay, everybody meet Mr. Me Too.
After I got into sales, BBC was performing well. Me and Emery were working on a bunch of other projects at Rock. And me and this guy right here, Curtains, were a part of a brand that I would say changed the landscape of fashion in the past 10 years. We helped co-found a brand called En Noir. And this brand is considered a luxury brand. It was the first brand that was featured, Barney's, GQ, Louis Sevilla Roma. We won awards. We were the first collection to ever show Paris Fashion Week and New York Fashion Week, our first season out. You
won the GQ award, right?
Yeah, we won GQ Designer of the Year. We won Gap collabs. We made waves. Before us, there was no Off-White, no Fear of God, no Marcelo Boulogne. None of those brands that are streetwear brands that you see at Barney's were there until we took the bumps and bruises to start that entire lane. One of the things that I want you guys to take away from this is there's so many opportunities in the fashion industry that have nothing to do with clothes, There's so many people that think that getting in the fashion industry means you have to know how to draw, or that's what I thought. When I was young, I was like, yeah, I love clothes, but I don't know how to draw, and I don't own a store, and I'm not gonna start a brand. So there's so many ways to be a part of this. For those that don't know, I'm Colombian, and Balvin and I had a social media connection, and a lot of people wanted to introduce us. And when we met, he was like, man, Latin artists don't get any respect on the fashion side. And I'm like, well, it's because Latin artists can't dress. So, I'm sorry, I'm honest. That's it's very hard to find, Latin cultural beacons that are respected in the fashion realm. And I didn't like that, so I'm Colombian, I'm proud to be Colombian, and I pride myself on, creating a door for other kids that really love fashion, and, that come from where I come from.
That video basically is the exhibition. Well, no, so everything that everyone is wearing is upstairs in the exhibition, so.
But it's a Colombian artist speaking Spanish with a producer who's French, a video shot globally, with an artist like Beyonce to add the remix. It's taking everything that they're doing in the exhibit, taking it globally.
We're gonna, finish, with a video featuring two of your biggest influences, Jay and Pharrell, right. With Change Clothes.
Jay told us a story once. We were having, we used to do this thing at the office called Do Say Fridays. Every now and then, Jay would pop in and, have a drink, say a joke, be Jay. And Jay told us that he had walked into a room at All-Star Weekend, and David Stern was there. And David Stern was the NBA commissioner before the one that's currently there. And David Stern introduces him to the rest of the people. He goes, oh, this is Jay-Z. He's the guy who ruined my jersey business, right? That's a crazy intro, So, we were all laughing, and I was like, it was because of this, because in this time, everybody was wearing throwback jerseys. That was the rapper kit, right? You had a throwback jersey and big-ass jeans and Timbs, and Jay, being the leader of culture that he is, was like, yeah, that's done. We corporate. We're trying to build CEOs. We're trying to build people that are, exude a level of confidence. So he said it in a line. He said, give me a crisp pair of jeans and a button up, and that was it. The entire hip hop industry started wearing oversized, terribly colored button up shirts, and and hat. It was funny because they would wear it with a hat. How much different is this than the jersey? Because but I did it. You know, I listened. I started wearing button-ups. You know, at that time, everybody wanted to drive cars. Jay is like, nah, we gonna get driven. And it was like one of the first times you saw me back. And Pharrell's in the video in like a Bape hoodie and a varsity jacket. Like, all right, you could do that. You could do the button-up thing. I'm gonna do this. And those are both my icons. And like, you know, ended up working for these two is brought my career full circle. You know.
So what do you recommend for people that's been trying to get into internships?
What was your inspiration?
If you could pick one cultural icon from like the last 5 years who really changed the landscape of fashion, like who would that be?
Pharrell. I mean, it's no-brainer. And I say it not because of my personal opinion of him. It's because I might catch a lot of flack for this, but I don't care. We're at the MoMA. I'm going to say it. Right now, there's a huge influencer culture, right? I don't really like being an influencer. It's kind of like a byproduct of what I do. But that being said, Pharrell has been doing everything that influencers like kind of preach about doing silently for the past 20 years or 15 years, whatever, right? And I feel like the fact that he's able to go and do it and set like a trail of breadcrumbs for everybody without him having to say, this is what I'm doing, right? Like, Pharrell's done everything. Pharrell had a Louis Vuitton deal before anybody. Pharrell had a collaborative everything with anything you could think of. Japan, France, runway shows, streetwear, Dina and DeLuca. There's no thing he hasn't tried his hand on that he might have lost. He's taken a bunch of bumps, but he was able to go there as a person of color and say, hey, look, I went into this boardroom wearing a hoodie, mad jewelry, and sneakers, and I had an idea that I was able to monetize, so you can do it too. And that's why I think he's the most important.
What would you say would be your greatest challenge being an entrepreneur and, you know, doing your own thing, breaking out the box?
My biggest challenge being an entrepreneur is having a presence, if that makes sense. And let me explain that. So I have a social media following, right? So that comes with people thinking I'm an influencer because they like my taste or my opinion of something, right? But when I walk into a boardroom and I'm pitching an idea that has nothing to do with my influence or my stance on a product, right? The first thing that these people want to talk about is connecting me to this product and for me to promote it and for me to get it hot. And that's not really what I do because there's a bunch of ideas that I have about developing things that have nothing to do with my personal taste. And as an entrepreneur, I keep facing roadblocks because my reputation precedes me. That's the part that you guys don't see. For everybody that follows me on Instagram, that sees the sneakers and the food and me hanging out with celebrities, you don't see the nights that I don't sleep or the nights where I gotta know or the nights where my sister had to lend me money to, you know, rent a car to do a run. You know, you guys don't see none of that. You guys see, you know, the glamorized version. And as much as I try to share that, like, I'll post a picture of like some unreleased Jordans and it gets 5,000 likes. But I'll post a picture of my laptop at 4 a.m. of me working on shit that I'm super late on and it gets 2 likes. And then I get a weird DM about like, so, you know, it's hard because you have a lot, I have a lot that I have to deal with that people already think they know about me.
You know, I've learned all kinds of gems, literally from what he said and what he hasn't said. And I just wanted him to say one thing that everyone, whether young or old, needs to do, whether it's in fashion or whatever, just one piece of advice.
Often, opportunity is hidden or disguised as an obstacle. So don't question your journey. Don't question what's gonna be in your way, what's gonna happen. I've been through everything you could think of, but now I'm at the MoMA. So.
Make some noise for Upscale Vandal.
Yes, sir. I want to thank you guys for coming out, you know what I'm saying? So I appreciate you. Thank you.
For me to come up here and get wisdom from other people of a stature of influencers is a good thing for me.
The clothes, the prints, everything made a mark, everything.
Event was amazing. Definitely inspirational. You know, he dropped a lot of gems in there.
I was able to play trap music at the MoMA.
What else do I gotta say?